for me, personally, there's a great amount of conviction in seeing the topics that we have engaged in the book being played out through projects, whether it's our work or other professionals who are impacted by this dialogue. But the big question in front of us is, we lost all connection with context. There were buildings that are being built in one part of the world that are also being replicated in another part of the world, which are completely different contexts, completely different settings, because we stopped asking the questions. What we are looking for is a paradigm shift in saying that every lighting solution, appropriate lighting solution, should be based on the context. You cannot disengage the context from the lighting design solution. That's the pedagogy that we have inherited, is that, you got to get so much light level and so much uniformity ratios and you're done. That's where the problem is. When did darkness become bad? Where was it when the power companies and the lighting manufacturers started saying, you got to have more light and more light and more light, otherwise all hell will break loose? And I started asking this question way back. I was like, wait, so where did these light levels come from? You give me first 1,000 lux, then 20 years later you say, no, you could do it in 500 lux. And 10 years later you say that you can do it in 300 lux. So I'm saying in 30 years, you come down to 30% of the original light level requirements. So where did these numbers come from in any case? So when you start asking those critical questions, what comes out is a dialogue on what is really important. And what's important is to engage the space to make it evocative. It's not about light levels. The eye does not see light levels. The eye sees brightnesses. Light levels is an engineering term, which, what's the word that I'm looking for? That it basically levels, everything to one lowest common multiple. It doesn't take it to the highest common denominator. It takes it to the lowest common multiple. It's like, let's just give them light levels and everybody's going to be fine with this whole concept of lighting design. And that's where the issue is. Where's the context? What's wrong with darkness? I'm not saying that in an operating theater you need darkness. No, I'm saying the context. Once you understand the context, you can figure out if you want darkness or not. You can't just say, I'm doing heart surgery and I want darkness. Of course, that's not what I'm saying. That's where the context comes in. Then the whole issue of climate. Why are we not looking at what the climate does to light fixtures? Climates are, with this whole global warming, climate change that's happening, it's even more relevant because there are parts of the world that had no, exposure to certain temperatures and humidity that are having that now. So climate is another crucial factor. Again, we have said that, whatever works in Europe and parts of North America should work for the rest of the world. That we know that's not the case. If that was the case, everybody would be eating the same kind of food and dressing in the same kind of clothes, right? So lighting and lighting design in architecture has important questions that it can ask if we engage it. The problem is that we don't engage it. We're like, give me light levels, see you, thank you very much. And we are losing the plot when we contain ourselves to just talking about that. There are a whole lot of other topics. There are about 18 essays that are there in this book. We have just touched upon 3 of the 18 on what is actually happening. Then there's this other thing, which is, again, where we're requesting a paradigm exploration, that to go towards a paradigm shift, which is, this whole concept of lighting up buildings at night, what I call building envy, so that, your building is bigger and better lit than your neighbors. The question is, where is this going? Why is it required? And is there another way to do it? There are some great examples, and I've done many exterior lighting projects, and there's some great examples around the world. My question is context. Therefore the name of the book, Contextualizing Light. Context. Why is it that every downtown in the world aspires to look the same? And again, it's the whole concept of exploring the context first before coming up with a synaptic response and saying that's the solution. First ask the question, and there's that famous quote from Albert Einstein. You can Google it. It's basically, if you have a problem in front of you, you spend like 90% of the time figuring out what the real question is before you start finding out what the solution is. So there are a lot of great people who have spoken about this, that ask the questions, as against closing your eyes ad nauseum, launching into it and saying, here, I'm a lighting designer and I'm giving you so many lux. That's a great disservice to the whole, forget the profession of lighting design, but to the whole field of light energy. Light can do so much. Light and lighting can do so much more than just deliver lux levels. And I'm saying, in the architecture environment, how can we utilize that to further the understanding? To further the understanding of the other properties of light, right? Then there's that other conversation which has started recently about health and wellness and how light can impact that. That why should we have a dichotomy of sorts that, okay, we do lighting for offices and we don't really care about how it's impacting people, and then we do lights for hospitals and there we care about how it's impacting people more than it's in this other. No, I'm saying that everywhere we should have the same approach, that it's really about the human beings. It's light for human beings, not for buildings. Yes, I'm not living in a utopian ideal where I'm kind of going, well, you don't have to light the buildings. No, I understand that. The Times Square is one example. You need to light the buildings because it generates tourism, civic pride, etc., etc. But what I'm saying, more importantly, is the angle of health and wellness and the human part should not be only useful in certain contexts. It should be the case across the board. And understanding light and its properties better, right, by reading this book will help that dialogue. So that's another question that I'm trying to answer.